शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Friday and Saturday series on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rūpa Goswami, Rūpa Śikṣā. We have actually begun with the discussion of the actual teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rūpa Goswami. We have discussed till now two themes, if you remember. The first one was not possible to fully describe the ocean of devotional service, and very rare to find a pure devotee of Lord. And the classification of the living entities all the way up till, from the 84 lakh species to sculpture to Manushya Jati, Manushya to Vedamani to Ardhavika, to Dharmacharya, Dharmatacharya to Karmanishta to Jnananishta to Jnanamukta to again a pure devotee. So after doing this, how this all pure devotional service begins? It begins with the creeper. When we get the Bhakti Lata Bij by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And when you get this Bhakti Lata Bij, then what do? We cultivate it by Shravanadi Jal. Shravana Kirtan Jale Kare Sechan. We cultivate this Bhakti Lata Bij by pouring Shravan and Kirtan, just like a seed is sown in the soil and we pour water, it slowly sprouts up. So this Shravanadi Jal in the last class quite elaborately we discussed. And then slowly then it goes to Golok Vrindavan and it takes shelter of Sri Krishna's lotus feet. And we discussed in the last class, if you remember, that it crosses the Viraja, it crosses the Brahmanda, then piercing the Brahmanda, it crosses the Viraja, and then it goes to Parayom, the Vaikuntha planets, the spiritual sky. And the capital of the spiritual planet is Golok Vrindavan. It will go there. And we last time discussed the symptoms of how to know that whether our Bhakti Lata creeper, firstly, it is neither metamorphical nor literal. It is a spiritual creeper, just like the soul is neither metamorphical, the dimension of the soul, nor is it literal. So similarly, the spiritual creeper actually is manifesting with the process of hearing and chanting. And when it crosses the Brahmanda, we are self-realized souls. Absolutely no material desires in our heart. That means the Bhakti Lata creeper has crossed the Brahmanda. And then further crossing the Viraja and Golok Vrindavan means when we are practicing Raganuga Bhakti and we are attracted to emulate the Bhakti of the eternal associates, the Brajvasis. So we go through the stages of Ruchi, Asakti, and then we attain the stage of Nishta, Bhava, and then ultimately Prema. At Prema, it has reached the lotus feet of Krishna, and there it will give the fruit in the form of Krishna Prema. So further in the verses, which we will see today, Mahaprabhu is further describing the progression. Tabe aya yadi upara Goloka Vrindavana Krishna Charana Kalpa Vriksha Kare Arohana. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravan Kirtan, the Bhakti Creeper grows more and more. So the Bhakti Creeper grows from one's heart. And from one's heart, it slowly starts traveling to the higher planetary systems, crossing the Brahman. And all this is happening by the Shravana Kirtan process. So how important it is to regularly hear and chant so that the Bhakti Lata creeper goes. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, Kalpa Vriksh, Krishna Charana, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan, in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. So the Bhakti Lata pierces even the Vaikuntha planets and reaches the capital of the Vaikuntha planets, which is Golok Vrindavan. Now, Prabhupada's purport is very interesting. He gives a description of what actually is in Golok Vrindavan. So he quotes the Brahma Samhita. Ananda Chinmay Rasa Prati Bhavitabhi Tabhira Eva Nija Rūpataya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasat Akilatma Bhuta Govindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. So because it was mentioned that it reaches Golok Vrindavan and attains the lotus feet of Krishna, Prabhupada is referring to the Brahma Samhita verse which describes the Lord who resides in Golok Vrindavan. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who resides in his own realm Golok with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Ladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form, who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa, Ananda Chinmaya rasa. So, Krishna resides in Golok Vrindavan, and in order to relish rasa, he who is one becomes two, Radha and Krishna, in order to relish rasa. And Srimati Radharani, she expands, she embodies her extension of a bodily form are the unlimited gopis. And all, they all give pleasure to Krishna in spiritual rasa. They have spiritual reciprocations of love. And all this is spiritual rasa, ever blissful spiritual rasa. So Prabhupada is just giving a hint of how the Lord resides in Golok Vrindavan and relishes spiritual rasa. In the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has expanded himself by his spiritual potency. By the Antaranga Shakti, he expands. He has his eternal form of bliss and knowledge, Satchidananda Vigraha. Everything in the Golok Vrindavan planet is a spiritual expansion of Satchidananda. So in the spiritual planet, the gopis, the gopas, the cows, the trees, everything is constituted of Satchidananda. Now, this is very difficult to fathom here for us who are in the material world. We see where the manifestation is composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether. It is a manifestation of the Bhairanga Shakti of the Lord. But in the spiritual world, everything is composed of Satchidananda. Everything is a conscious being which is filled with eternity and filled with bliss. So Prabhupada gave an example. What is the difference between the ordinary dust of any place and the dust of Vrindavan? He said you can hold the dust of Vrindavan and you can offer a prayer. And because that dust of Vrindavan is a conscious being, it can fulfill your prayer. It is a Kalpa Vriksha. So that is the difference between the dust of Vrindavan and any other ordinary dust of any other place. So again, even this too for us to fathom is difficult. How the dust of Vrindavan, it looks like material, but it is completely Satchidananda. So in the spiritual world also, everything is Satchidananda. Everywhere there is of the same potency, Ananda Chinmaya Ras. The relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his servitor is Chinmaya Ras. Krishna and his entourage and paraphernalia are of the same Chinmaya potency. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is expanded throughout the spiritual world. And when that Chinmaya Ras potency expands through the material potency, it becomes all-pervading. So that same spiritual potency, when Krishna joins with the Maya Shakti, then the material world, from the spiritual potency is the Brahma Jyoti, the all-pervading effulgence of the Lord. And after the Brahma Jyoti is the material energy of the Lord, the Bhairanga Shakti, which is all-pervading. So that's how Prabhupada explains. The idea is that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists in his own planet, Golok Vrindavan, he is also present everywhere. So the Lord is personally present and he is also impersonally present by his Shakti. He is all-pervading. Andantarastha Paramanu Jayantarastam. He is present within all the universes, although they are innumerable, and he is also present within the atom. So this is the feature of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is both personal and impersonal. In his personal feature, he is present in the spiritual world, and he is all-pervading through his impersonal feature. Even in the material world, we have this phenomena where the sun is all-pervading through sunshine. And there is the sun disk. And there is a personal feature of the sun also. Similarly, the government also is spread to the entire state of the country through its impersonal feature. And there is the government which is run by the Prime Minister and the ministers who sit in the parliament. So they have personal. And by their Shakti of the cabinet ministers and the principal secretary, the state secretary, the officers, through all of them, they have spread. So like that, the Absolute Truth also has this personal and impersonal feature. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshi Arjuna Tushtati. He is also present within the heart of all living beings as Shirodakshai Vishnu. This is his all-pervasive potency. Prabhupada gave the example of Mr. Ford when he was speaking on 9.4 of the Bhagavad Gita. Maya Sarvam Idam Tatam Jagat Avyakta Murtina. I am present, all-pervading. I am all-pervading in this universe by my impersonal feature. Jagat Avyakta Murtina. So Prabhupada gave the example of Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford is a personality who is the owner of Ford factory. He is in his personal feature sitting in his cabin, the managing director cabin as a CEO, but also in his entire factory premises, wherever the car is being manufactured, everywhere it is written Ford, Ford, Ford. So through his Shakti, he is also all pervading in his entire factory. Similarly, the Lord is also residing in the spiritual planet and is all pervading through his potencies. Golok Vrindavan is the highest planet in the spiritual world. In order to go to the spiritual world, after penetrating the covering of the material universe, one must penetrate Brahmalok, the spiritual effulgence. So when do we penetrate the Brahmajok effulgence or cross this Brahmanda? When we are free from all material desires. Usually it is the stage of Nishtha. At the stage of Nishtha, one can say that one is the self-realized soul, and then one has crossed this Brahmanda. Further, with the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, he will be able to cross the Virija. From the Virija, he'll cross the Vaikunta planets, because Raga Bhakti is only Rag Bhakti is only practiced in Vrindavan by the Vrajavasis. So then he'll be able to cross the Vaikunta planets where there is worship in awe and reverence, whereas in Vrindavan it is worship out of spontaneity. So that's how slowly, progressively he'll cross. Then one can come to Golok Vrindavan planet. There are also other planets in the spiritual world called Vaikunta planets, and on these planets, Lord Narayan is worshipped with awe and veneration. Aishwarya Bhav. Oh, Narayan is master, he is Swami, he is Vaikuntanath, he is the controller of all Shaktis. So like that, there is awe and reverence. On these planets, Shant Ras is prevalent. Mark this. So usually the devotees have lot of awe and reverence towards Narayan. Narayan is Sarva Shaktiman. So there is just adoration of Narayan. And I'm, a tiny, insignificant jiva. So there is no much intimacy there between the jiva and the Lord. There is just adoration of the Lord as Sarvasya Dhataram. So he is the controller of all material potencies. So that's what most prominently it is Shantras. It is Shantras. Now devotees have a misconception about Shantras, which we will discuss because that is one of the themes which will come here in the Rūpa Śikṣā. Shantras, they feel, is like something like, the trees or the inanimate objects have. No, Shantras also can be between two living beings. Just like, to give an example, the husband and wife, usually it is the Madhurya Ras, in which they are related. In a wedded love, it is called. But when there is a fight, when both are not talking to each other, that time, they are in Shantras in one sense. There is no loving reciprocation happening between both of them. So like that, Shantras is more prevalent. Some of the devotees, Prabhupada is saying, are also connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Dasiras, the mellow of servitorship. So in Shantras, the devotees meditate and contemplate. Oh, the Lord is so great. He is the controller of all the potencies. So that's why there is just adoration and, kind of awe towards the Lord. But further, the love, when it further grows, that, oh, the Lord is so great. I am so tiny and insignificant. Let me serve the Lord. So that is more of a dasya bhav. So some of the devotees Prabhupada is mentioning are in Dasiras, the mellow of servitorship. So in the Vaikunta planets, there are only these two prominent rasas, Shant and Das. And Shant is more prominent. Some devotees Prabhupada is saying are Das. There is one more ras, which is also prominent in the Vaikunta planets. Anyone knows about it? Can raise their hand. which is also a little bit prevalent in the Vaikuntha planets. There is one more rasa. Yes, Parthasarthi Prabhuji.
Swakhiya Madhurya Ras.
Swakhiya Madhurya Ras. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, it is there, but still that is also more, Lakshmi and Narayana there residing. But it is more, there is no intimacy there much. It is not developed much even in Vaikuntha planets. Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, is it Gaurav Saksharas?
Yes, it is Gaurav Sakyaras. Now Prabhupada is going to speak about it. Let's hear what Prabhupada has to say. So he says, some devotees are connected in Dasiras. As far as the mellow of fraternity is concerned, in Vaikuntha, this rasa is represented by Gaurav Sakya, friendship in awe and reverence. So even though there is friendship, that friendship is also quite far from Narayan. There is a lot of awe and reverence. Oh, Narayan is master, Vaikuntanath. So there is no intimacy also much in that friendship. So the friendship of Krishna and Arjuna, where Arjuna realizes that Krishna is supreme, there is Gaurav Sakyaras. But there is also Arjuna in the Vrindavan Leela. One of the friends of Krishna is Arjuna there, like Badr Sain, Sridhama, Sudhama and all. So there is, I'm speaking about Sridhama and Sudhama of Goloka, not of Dwarka. So there, the friendship of Krishna, the friendship of these devotees with Krishna is based on equality. They consider Krishna as their friend and they don't consider Krishna as God. That's why sometimes, Saka, Shuddha Saka Bhava, Kare Skanda Arohan. The Sakas in Shuddha Saka Bhava, in pure Sakya Ras, they can climb sometimes of Krishna. Nobody can think of climbing on Narayan in Vaikuntha. So there is Gaurav Sakya Ras. The other fraternity Ras exhibited as Vishramba. Friendship and equality is found in Golok Vrindavan planet. So this is the difference between the rasa which is there in Vaikuntha. Of course, as Prabhuji was mentioning, there is also, Vatsalya Ras in Vaikuntha and even Madhurya, but Swakya, not Parakya. But there also there is no much intimacy. That's why if you see even in South India temples, if you go, if there is a Vishnu temple or a Narayan temple, there is a separate temple of Lakshmi. The Lakshmi Narayan temple are not together much. You can see there is a separate Lakshmi temple which is in a separate Garbha Graha. So like that, there is a lot of awe and reverence there. Above that is service of the Lord in Vatsalya Ras, and above all is the relationship of the Lord with Madhurya Ras. These 5 rasas are fully exhibited in the spiritual world in one's relationship with the Lord. And they are fully manifested, especially in Golok Vrindavan. Therefore, in the spiritual world, the Bhakti Kripa finds its resting place at the lotus feet of Krishna. So, this is what Prabhupada has to say. We can speak a lot about it, but just to summarize, to be attracted to the Golok Ras, there is the story of Gop Kumar. Gop Kumar was initiated by a sannyasi. He was a simple cowherd boy in Govardhan, and he was initiated in the Gopal Ras. So he got attracted to Lord Gopal of Vrindavan. And the Gop Kumar story is there, how he first went to the heavenly planets, saw Indra worship the Lord in Aishwarya. From there, he also worshipped there, but he was not so much happy. He went to Janalok, Tapalok, and then Brahmalok. He saw Brahma worshipping the Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, the 1,000-headed form of the Lord. He worshipped there also the Lord there, but still he was not happy at heart. And then from there, he pierced the Brahmanda, crossed the Brahmalok, and then entered the Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, he had the darshan of Narayan. He ran towards Narayan to hug Narayan. All the Vaikuntha Vasis were wondering, what is this person doing? Why is he rushing towards Narayan? But out of ecstasy, when he came near Narayan, he collapsed there. He could not able to hug Narayan. Nobody can think of hugging Narayan in Vaikuntha planet. So then Narayan tenderly caressed him. He came back to consciousness, and he saw that all the associates of Narayan, the servants of Narayan, were with awe and reverence, glorifying Narayan with Purusha Sukta, and they were doing Chamar, Nanda Sunanda. There was Garud there. So all the associates of Narayan were there. And then Gop Kumar is observing all this. And then Lakshmi comes in. Everyone start moving out because they understand now Lakshmi is going to serve Narayan Prasad. So Gop Kumar is not ready to go from that place because he's attracted. He wants to see what Narayan is doing. But the devotees there, they say, come, let's go out. Let's go. No, Lakshmi is going to serve Narayan. So what? I want to see. No, you're not allowed to see. So then at last he moves, and then every day Narayan is worshipped with love, awe and reverence by Stuti. So one day, one of the associates is doing Chamar, and Gop Kumar also takes a Chamar and starts doing the Chamar to the Lord. And he leaves the Chamar and he starts playing the flute because Krishna likes to hear the flute. Narayan is actually understanding the mood of Gop Kumar. And Gop Kumar is narrating the pastimes of Krishna to the Lord of Vaikuntha. And when all this is happening, Narayan is relishing it. The other servants of the Lord come. And then they take Gop Kumar, they call him, and they say, you cannot do all this with Narayan. You cannot go so close to Narayan and speak so intimately with Narayan. You have to, from far, awe and reverence, you have to glorify Narayan with the standard prayers. So like that, Gop Kumar is not so happy. So from there he goes to Dwarka. And there also, although he has attraction to Dwarkanath, but still that is Krishna in his Aishwarya form, the Dvibhajvan Aishwarya form. But at last, when he goes to Golok Vrindavan and meets his Lord, there he is able to hug Shyam Sundar Krishna. We have seen that picture of Gop Kumar hugging Shyam Sundar Krishna. So there he is fully satisfied. So like that, when the spiritual world we reach and take the lotus feet of, take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, then that is where the jiva can fully manifest his rasa in full intimacy and love with the Lord in any of the rasas. Especially in Golok Vrindavan, there is Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya, very prominent. Even the Dasya is also a lot of intimacy in Golok Vrindavan. The Sakya, we saw it as Vishramba. Vishramba means friendship and equality. Even in Sakya, in Golok Vrindavan, there are again higher categories. They are some called as Priya Narma Sakas. They are very intimate friends of Krishna who arrange Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. So like that, there is also intimacy further also in Sakya Ras, even in Golok Vrindavan, which we will not deal now. Tahan Vistaritahana Fale Prema Fala Ihan Mali Siche Nitya Shravanadi Jal. Tahan means there. The creeper greatly expands in Golok Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Fale Prema Fal. So the Bhakti Lata Creeper, as we are cultivating and going through stages of Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and after Bhava, when we attain Prema, it means it has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, full shelter. And now it will give the fruit in the form of Krishna Prema. It produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener gradually sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. Ihan Mali Siche Nitya Shravanadi Jal. So although one has reached Golok Vrindavan planet, he is here physically in the material realm, the pure devotee, but the Bhakti Lata has reached Golok Vrindavan. He continues the hearing and chanting. That's very important here. Ihan Mali Seche Nitya Shravanadi Jal. Let us see what Prabhupada has to say. In Golok Vrindavan, the devotees have very intimate relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We saw that. The devotees engage in the Lord's service in great ecstatic love. Such love was exhibited personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to the people of the material world. Raga Marga Bhakti Karite Pracharan. This rag, spontaneous love, without any awe and reverence, this is the Bhakti Mahaprabhu personally exhibited and personally came to give us. The fruit of the devotional creeper is the pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is this fruit Prabhupada is mentioning? The pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Lord. Krishnendriya Priti Ichhadhare Premanam. In the spiritual world, one has no desire other than to please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now Prabhupada is explaining about how a pure devotee in the material world is also serving the Lord in the same mood. The conditioned soul within the material world can neither understand nor appreciate how a pure devotee in the material world can render confidential service to the Lord out of feelings of ecstatic love and always engage in pleasing the Supreme Lord's senses. So the pure devotee who is situated in the material world is also pleasing the senses of the Lord in pure love. That is by preaching, because that is the Lord's desire, to connect his part and parcels back to him. And at the same time, he is relishing devotional mellow also with the Lord, the pure devotee. So the conditioned souls cannot understand this. Although seen within this material world, the pure devotee always engages in the confidential service of the Lord. So the preaching is a very confidential service to the Lord. An ordinary neophyte devotee cannot realize this. Therefore, it is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigyana Pujaya. So the neophyte devotee, he is engaged in sense gratification, whereas the pure devotee is engaged in gratifying the senses of the Lord. So from the external perspective, both look quite similar activities. That is why the activities, the Vaishnava Kriya Mudra, the Vaishnava's activities, one can never understand. Especially neophyte devotees should not try to understand the exalted activities of a Mahabhagavat, because he will see from material, because he is entangled in sense gratification, he is having Kamatma, he is Kamatma, but he will see from same perspective a pure devotee also, and then he will commit offense. The activities of a pure Vaishnava cannot be understood even by a learned scholar in the material world, what to speak of a neophyte. Every living entity is wandering within this universe in different species and on different planetary systems according to his fruitive activities. Out of many millions of living entities, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti Lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravan Kirtan, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of Bhakti Lata sprouts and grows up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhakti Lata continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Golok Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. So, as one is practicing his bhajan, when he crosses the Anarth Nivritti stage, attains the stage of Nishtha, there are symptoms of one who is in the stage of Nishtha. Further, he practices Raganu Bhakti, goes through the stage of Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and ultimately to the stage of Prema. He should continue his practice until he reaches Golok Vrindavan. There the creeper takes the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, and that is its final destination. So the Prem stage, the stage of Prema is the final destination, the stage where one has actually reach the lotus feet of Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. At that time, the creeper begins to grow the fruit of ecstatic love of Godhead. So when we reach prema, we reach a general stage of prema, and further in prema there are stages where we go through. It's like the flower, the tree, the seed which was in the form of a bija. By watering, it has gone into a creeper, then it has become a tree, and now the tree is giving the flower. The flower is now fully blossomed in the form of Krishna Prem. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. Now Prabhupada is saying that even when one has reached where it is going to give you Krishna Prema Phal, that means you have reached a stage of Prema, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the creeper must continue. Ihan mali seche nitya shamanadi jal. So if you come to these higher stages and you stop the watering process, then there is danger. That is why Prabhupada is saying you have to be careful. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. So here is a warning Prabhupada is giving that after a certain stage, sometimes so-called mature devotee thinks that I am advanced now, I need not hear and chant. When you come to that stage, you have still not reached Golok Vrindavan, you have still not attained the fruit of Krishna Prem. That means you are actually now, the Bhakti Lata gripper is like going to glide down now. So that's why one should not stop the hearing and chanting. In fact, one who is on the stage of Prema, he has so much taste for hearing and chanting that he continues to do it more and more. But Prabhupada is speaking about a certain stage below that where there is this danger. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, he should not give up the watering process of Shravan Kirtan. If one gives that up, it is due to an offense. So what to speak even at the stage of Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, even at the stage of Prema, Prabhupada mentions in many of his purports that one can commit offense. But usually one who is at the stage of Prema doesn't commit offense. But if he has stopped hearing and chanting, that means it is due to offense. There is no other reason. Prabhupada is very clear about it here. This is described in the following verse. So now in the next verse, Prabhupada is going to describe about this offense. Any questions you have up till now? What these two verses we discussed? There are two questions, so we will take up these two questions. Yes, Parth Sarthi Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, do you mean that all souls belong to Goloka Vrindavan? Even the souls in Vaikuntha planet also have to do hearing and chanting so that they can be promoted to Goloka Vrindavan?
No, that's not the right understanding. Those who are in the Vaikuntha planet, they are situated in a particular rasa and they are happy in that rasa. Like Hanuman is in Dasya Ras with Lord Ram. Although he might understand that the gopis rasa with Krishna is the highest, but he is fully satisfied. And each of the rasas are unique. And the devotee feels complete satisfaction in whatever rasa he's in, is there. Now, when Mahaprabhu has invented here and given us this process is now open to us, the Raga Marga Bhakti, which was never given by the Lord, even when the Lord had come as Lord Krishna 5,000 years back. So only by Mahaprabhu's mercy, this bhakti, this Vraj Bhakti, through the Raganuga practice, Raga Bhakti, is given by Mahaprabhu and all our 6 Goswamis. So by this practice, you can what? Ultimately attain Golok Vrindavan. So that is how we need to understand. Okay. Birendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandatanam. Prabhuji, in previous verse, this it is mentioned Ananda Chinmaya Rasa.
Yes.
Is it indicating to this 5 primary rasa?
Yes, they are indicating the 5 primary rasas in which the Lord and the devotees are relishing reciprocations. It is the Ananda Chinmaya Ras. We in this material world, we are right now caught up in Jad Ras, material rasas. There is, Gulab Jamun, and we are there. The Gulab Jamun, doesn't feel, oh, let me go and sit on his tongue and relish rasa. We relish a Jad Rasa between the tongue and the Gulab Jamun. Then, we might be very rich. We might have some servants and they are serving us and we, try to control them. So there is some Dasiras we are relishing. And then we have some friends whom we are intimate. There's a Sakyaras we are relishing. And with our parents, mother, father, there is Vatsalaras. And with the wife, in the wedded love, there is Madhuri Ras. So, but all these are also material rasas. These are material rasas. Compared to Jad Ras, they are little superior, but these are still material. But the soul, who is completely spiritual, has spiritual rasa with the supreme soul in these 5 rasas. And they are completely spiritual and they are Ananda Chinmaya Ras. Okay? Fine. Now, even if one attains by cultivating the Bhakti Lata creeper, one can reach Golok Vrindavan and there he can attain Krishna Prem. And he should continue to do the Shravanadi Jal. Now, Mahaprabhu speaks about one danger which can happen, by which one's Bhakti Lata creeper can not give this Krishna Prem Phal, and that is because of offense, which he speaks in the next verse. Now, this verse discussion is very important. Kindly hear attentively. Yadi Vaishnava Prad Uthe Hati Mata Uphade Va Chinde Tara Shukiyaya Pata. Yadi. Now, this Bhakti Lata creeper can go and give us ultimately Krishna Prem Phal. But, he's saying Yadi means but. If Vaishnava Aparad Ute Hatimata, if a devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava, which is compared to a mad elephant offense, while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant, Hatimata, that uproots the creeper. Uphade. Uphade means it uproots. And Chinde. Chinde means it breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Tara Shuki Aya Pata. So while cultivating this creeper of devotional service, if one commits an offense to a Vaishnava, which is compared to a mad elephant offense, then what will happen? This Bhakti Lata creeper, which has grown to a certain degree, maybe it has gone up to heaven, or it has gone up to cross this Brahmanda, or it is being slowly going towards Golok Vrindavan. If it is a mad elephant offense which we commit, a Vaishnava Aparadha is compared to a mad elephant offense, then the creeper from the root, it is uprooted completely and the creeper will dry and it is broken. Just like the mad elephant, when it enters a garden, it completely destroys all the garden, all the leaves, creepers, everything it destroys. So this is the gravity of a Vaishnava Aparad, Hatimata. It is compared to Hatimata. Now Prabhupada gives a very, very interesting purport. He says that, you might say, Yadi Vaishnava Aparad. Oh, there is a chance that I might commit a Vaishnava Aparad in the association of Vaishnavas. So let me not be in the association of Vaishnavas only and cultivate my devotional life. That's also not possible. Because once devotional attitude increases in the association of Vaishnavas, Only by associating with the Vaishnavas, one can advance in Krishna consciousness. And by committing offense to Vaishnavas, one can glide down. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sa nevas, janame hoy ei abhilash. By his personal example, Narottam Das Thakur stresses that the devotee must always remember to please his predecessor acharyas. The Goswamis are represented by one spiritual master. One cannot be an acharya, spiritual master, without following strictly in the disciplinic succession of acharyas. So one should be in the association of Vaishnavas, and in that association serve the Goswamis, serve the spiritual masters, serve the acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous acharyas. So Prabhupada is saying one who is actually serious and he wants to advance, he should have only one desire. Prabhupada lived for one desire, to serve the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to preach in the Western world. Echai Gosayara Muni Taradas. One should always think of oneself as the servant of the Acharyas, and thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. Now, here is a very important point to be noted, that how do we commit an offense in the association? When we don't stay in the mood as a servant of the Vaishnavas, and when we try to boss on the Vaishnavas and try to control the Vaishnavas. But how one should, in what attitude, what mood one should serve or stay in the association of Vaishnavas, Prabhupada is mentioning here. That's why a preacher, it is said, he's like a lion when he goes out to preach. But when he is in the ashram or has at home, he's like a lamb, he's humble. So one should live in a very humble mood in the association of Vaishnavas as a humble servant of the Vaishnavas, and especially as the humble servant of the predecessor acharyas, and try to fulfill their desire. However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas, and thus gives up all the regulative principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. So if we don't stay in this mood as a humble servant of the Vaishnavas, and we try to control the Vaishnavas and commit offenses to Vaishnavas, what happens? One's position becomes very dangerous. So when we commit offenses to Vaishnavas, we give up the regulative principles of devotional service. And we try to, I don't like this Vaishnava, I don't want to stay with this Vaishnava. We give up the association of Vaishnavas. I will stay alone and do my bhajan. That means one is very mature and advanced. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Leela chapter 8, verse 24. So the 10 offenses Prabhupada deals there quite elaborately. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the Bhakti Lata and breaks it to pieces. So what is this mad elephant offense? Giving up the regulative principles. And why do you give up the regulative principles? Because again, for committing Vaishnava Aparadh. So when one commits a Vaishnava Aparadh, the first symptom is that he falls in bad association. And in that bad association, he becomes slack in following the regulative principles. So these are the two things: giving up regulative principles, living according to one's whim. And this is compared to a mad elephant offense. In this way, the Bhakti Lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Guru Avagya. So two types of Vaishnava offense. Guru Avagya, when one disobeys the order of the spiritual master, one commits an offense. So this also can create stunt. The Bhakti Lata is stunted, the growth is stunted, or sometimes it can be completely uprooted also. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata begins, and gradually all the leaves dry up. So one deviates from the instructions of the spiritual master, slowly the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata creeper begins and gradually the leaves dry out. Tate mala yatna kari kare avarna aparadha sthirayache nayhaya udgama. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around. Tate mali yatna kari kare avarna. Avarna means just like you have a garden, the gardener is nicely growing a lot of flowers, flower trees in the garden. So what does he do? He puts a fence around so that no animals enter and spoil the garden. So similarly, the devotee who's cultivating the Bhakti Lata creeper, he should fence, he should have a avarn, so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Aparad hasti rache na hoy udgam. So what is this avarna for the devotee now? Just like the gardener actually physically puts a fence all around. So what is the fencing for a devotee so that this mad elephant offense he might not commit? Anyone knows? Can raise their hand. What is this fencing around? What exactly is this fencing actually for a devotee? Just like a gardener physically, fences with, poles and wires and all that. So what exactly is this in the case of a devotee? Yes, Vasant Naik Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Vaishnav Aparadh, I guess.
Vaishnav Aparadh is not the fencing.
No,
in
means
order to avoid Vaishnav Aparadh, what is the fencing?
That one I don't know. But
Yeah. Okay. Manoj Prabhuji, yes. What is your answer?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Be in the association of devotees and follow the regulative principles.
Yes, exactly. It is association of devotees. The association of devotees are like that fence. Prabhupada speaks about. While the Bhakti Rata creeper is growing, one must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. So this is the fencing. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. So when we associate with non-devotees, it's like setting loose the elephant. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Asat Sangatyag e Vaishnav Achar. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, Prabhupada is saying a so-called, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees, asatsang. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in. That is, by following the regular principles and associating with pure devotees. So Prabhupada says, what exactly is this fencing? Just like you have poles and wires, the pole is the pure devotee and the wires are the regulative principles. So, again, to make the point, when we commit offense to a Vaishnava, we become slack in following the regulative principles. The moment we become slack in following the regulative principles, we should understand that we have committed offense. So immediately we should rectify it. Because then when the regulative principle we become slack, then we'll slowly go into non-association, association of non-devotees. So that's how it happens both ways. So we should be very careful. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna conscious society, one should stick to the society. If one thinks that the society members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. The proper thing is telling, oh, in our temple, there are no pure devotees, or there are all pseudo devotees. But still Prabhupada is saying one should stick to the association of devotees, stick to the society. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instruction concerning the regulative principles and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. So Prabhupada is giving some understanding of who is a pure devotee. If somebody is following the spiritual master's instructions, following the regulative principle, chanting and hearing, he is in one sense a pure devotee. So there are different understandings of who is a pure devotee. Of course, a bhava or a prema bhakta who has attained this stage is a pure devotee. He is a uttamadhikari, mahabhagavat. But also in the sadhaka stage, if somebody is following very sincerely instructions of the spiritual master, he is following the regulative principles, he is chanting, he is also in one sense a pure devotee. He is a sadhaka, but still he is considered as a pure devotee. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. By one's mental consumptions, one falls down. By associating with non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principles and is thereby lost. In the Updeshamrita of Srila Rūpa Goswami, it is said, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamcha shadbir bhaktir vinashati. Shadbir bhaktir vinashati. Bhakti is destroyed when we associate with non-devotees, janasanga. And then in association of non-devotees, we become slack in following the regulative principles, niyamagra. So that's why Prabhupada is quoting this verse from the Updeshamrita. Now, while this Bhakti Lata creeper is growing, there is one danger of committing aparadh. There is another thing where the upashakas can grow and stunt the Bhakti Lata creeper, which we will see tomorrow. So any questions regarding these two verses which we discussed just now? You can ask questions about these two verses in this context, what we discussed. Any questions you have? Any questions? Two questions. Manoj Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhu, as you mentioned that once somebody commits the Vaishnava aparadh, so the Lata creeper becomes dried up.
Mhm.
So in any stage, if somebody has such mistakes and he got the correct association again, or somehow he understood that this is what the mistake, how can it be turned back into the real nature? What is the next solution for that? Devotees?
Yes. Now, as we immediately understand that, we have committed some Vaishnava aparadh, firstly, as devotees, we have to understand two things. Who is a Vaishnava and what actually constitutes Vaishnava aparadh. And if we are practicing our devotional life regularly and we see in our chanting there is no taste, when we come in the association of devotees, we don't feel happiness in hearing Krishna Katha or engaging in devotional activities, that means we are feeling some dryness in the heart. That means we should first understand that there is some Vaishnava aparadh we have committed. And then one should pray very sincerely. One also knows, in heart that maybe last week, because of some conflict or some issue, I had some tension with this Vaishnava and maybe I've committed an aparadh. So moment he comes to know, he should rectify. He should ask forgiveness from that Vaishnava. Firstly, he has to burn in the fire of repentance. That why did I do this? I'm such a rascal. So one should burn in the fire of repentance and sincerely approach that Vaishnava and ask forgiveness. If that aparadh has been very serious and the Vaishnava is not ready to forgive, still one should try to, ask forgiveness and humbly try to serve that Vaishnava for a long time in order to please him. Even after serving for a long time, that Vaishnava is not pleased. His anger doesn't subside because of the gravity of the offense. then one should not think, oh, what kind of a Vaishnava he is. He's not ready to forgive me. He doesn't have good quality. If he thinks like that, then he further gets entangled in Vaishnava Prad. Then, oh, I'm such a rascal. I'm such a fallen soul that, I've committed such a great aparad to a Vaishnava. So in that sense, in that situation, one should completely leave everything and take the shelter of the holy name and incessantly chant the holy name. Krishna, understanding the sincerity of that devotee, he absolves him from the offense. So these are at different levels. One should do solutions. First thing is, one should repent in the fire of repentance. One should burn in the fire of repentance. That why did I commit such an offense? One should approach that Vaishnava and ask forgiveness. If that Vaishnava doesn't forgive, then one should continue to serve that Vaishnava until he forgives us. And then also, if he doesn't forgive, then at the fourth stage, one should take shelter of the holy name completely and then become free from the holy name. Understands the attitude, because holy name is a person. He'll understand the attitude, and then one will become free from that offense. So that is the solution what our acharyas give. I hope it is clear, Prabhuji.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, there was one more hand which was raised. Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji. Yeah, I have unmuted you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Actually, I was about to ask the same question, but my question was related to neophytes who are very irregular in their chanting. And once that seed is dried up, is there any possibility of blooming or resprouting that seed? So you have, I think, answered this question.
Yeah, but still I would like to clarify. As sadhakas who are practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, usually our offenses happen because of inattentive chanting. Because of inattentive chanting. We are not attentive while chanting. We commit Dashanam Aparad, especially in the form of Aparad of not being attentive while chanting. And if we are attentive in our chanting and we relish our chanting, we become conscious of Krishna and we become conscious of the glories of Vaishnavas, glories of the holy name, glories of everything, then we will not commit offenses also. So in the Stadhaka stage, the Bhakti Lata creeper is now growing, but it is infested with a lot of offenses. That's why we are not able to advance quickly. And the Bhakti Lata creeper is very slowly growing. But in this case, when one commits a very severe offense to a very exalted pure devotee, Mahabhagavat, his creeper, which is very slowly growing also, that from the root uprooted and completely he loses all his practices also, and he leaves his practices and goes on back in the association of material people world. He gives up all his following of regulative principles. So that is an offense which is a very severe offense against a very exalted Mahabhagavat if one commits as a sadhaka. Usually the offenses which we commit are small offenses in the association of devotees. That's why the Bhakti Lata creeper is stunted in one sense. It doesn't grow nicely. We are doing Shravanadi Jal, but it is slowly growing. But when offense is committed against a pure devotee, what can happen? It can be completely uprooted from the root. Just like the elephant picks up the small creeper and tears it apart. So then we give up practices, we give up regulative principles, and we go back in the material world. And now in this lifetime, it becomes very difficult for us to again, cultivate that Agyat Sukriti again, to do some seva of Vaishnavas and cultivate that Shraddha, by which with that Shraddha we come in Sadhu Sangha and take up again to practices. It becomes very difficult. So that is why we have to again go back to zero and start our spiritual practices, and it becomes difficult. It's like climbing a hill now, because it becomes difficult for the false ego to come back again in the association of devotees and all. Secondly, this is first thing to understand. Secondly, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is very clearly narrated by Rūpa Goswami that even if one is, at the stage of prema, and he commits a very severe offense against a very advanced devotee, his rasa with the Lord, which is in prema, can come down to dasya or sakya or shanta rasa. So this is the gravity of committing offense to even an exalted person who is at a very high stage in devotional service, who is having a particular rasa with the Lord. He commits an offense to a very exalted devotee. So his rasa also comes down. So this can happen for very exalted devotees also, that their rasa also comes down. Now the sadhakas have still not attained any rasa. They are having little taste for some bhakti practices. So if they commit offense, that very little taste what they have, that also they start losing. So I would suggest that at the sadhaka stage, most important thing for sadhakas to do is to have this knowledge about what exactly is Vaishnava Aparadha, who is a Vaishnava, what is Vaishnava Aparadha, and especially not to commit offense while chanting the holy names. If we take care of this and we realize the glory of the Naam, we'll realize the glory of the Vaishnavas and will not commit offense to Vaishnavas, and we can make swift progress. So that's the point. I hope it clarifies the subject a little more.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Kaviraj Das Goswami